Hey everybody, welcome back to Church Public. Thank you for joining me here today. I really appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate your support and I appreciate you listening. Today we are talking about candy. No, we really are. We're talking about candy and other characters from places that you might refer to as the happiest place on earth going full woke, because that's what every corporation is doing these days, because why wouldn't you go woke? And more importantly, and we will talk about this in a moment, that we're talking about this convoy of trucks going across Canada. And why is that important? Why does that matter? And why are these connected? And why do they matter? Well, they matter because if you have gone to the store, and we talked about this the other day in terms of infrastructure, in terms of supply chain and things like that, if you aren't getting the things that you want, if you can't find the things you want, or if things are more expensive, these are part of the reasons why. And we're going to talk about some mandate stuff, and we're going to talk about the response of these truckers going across Canada saying, we need to just feed our families, and we want to live, and we want to be free, and we don't want to be stuck with these crazy rules that you're putting on. And we need to look at that because it's important, and it does make a difference for your life. Whether you're in Canada, whether you're in America, what is happening right now does make a difference. You're going to see it on your store shelves. You're going to see it in your prices. It is making a difference. So you got to figure out what side of this you want to be on, whether you think you have the right to make personal choices or whether you think the government has the right to tell you everything that you can do. Those are the questions we're looking at. Welcome to Church Public. Let's get started. Well, welcome back to Church Public. I really appreciate you tuning in here today. Again, my name is Matt Odegaard, and I am here to serve you. If you like this, give it a share, give it a follow, subscribe. If you're just on the audio version, thank you so much. Again, if you are interested in seeing some of the videos, especially the ones that I will show today, you can navigate over to churchpublic.com, click on the podcast tab there, and depending on when you're watching this, it'll either be the first one or you can scroll down and watch it in the list that shows up on that page. I appreciate any comments and ideas that you have, and go ahead and check out the social media as well. There are other stories that I post on there. Like today I posted that Afghanistan is now the #1 most dangerous place for Christians to live. That's a big story. We'll be talking about that more as time goes on, but not today. Today, of course, we're starting with candy, because why isn't candy important to everyone's everyday life? M&M has come out and said that their characters need to be more diverse and more representative of the people that consume them, I guess. Again, why does it matter that candy reflects you? Does candy actually reflect you? Both of those answers really are no. Candy doesn't look like who you are, because you are not a little piece of candy. Actually, I learned that the M&Ms candies are called lentils, which I thought were beans or something, but apparently that is what the Mars company has designated M&Ms to be called, lentils. Again, go figure. Anyway, apparently they all have their own personality and have had for a while, but now, according to Mars, quote, they have gotten a modern makeover for a more dynamic, more progressive world, because that is, again, what we need. We the people have been crying out that our candy needs to be representative of us. It needs to be dynamic and progressive. No, none of us have been asking that. No one wants that. No one cares. Their candies, eat the candies or don't eat the candies. I really don't care. But we do have to care, because we are told that if we don't care about this, then we are bad people. And that's why this matters, because for whatever reason, candy now is moral. And the candy is either moral, and it tells you if you are moral or if you are immoral. And if you don't agree with the direction this candy is going, you are an immoral person. That is according to this worldview. That's why we need to talk about it, because we look at current events from a Christian perspective and a biblical worldview. So if you are not on board with this candy, you are an immoral person. That's what the culture is telling you. Spoiler alert, that's ridiculous, and the morals that you should be gathering come from the Bible, from biblical standard, from God. But we're going to look at this candy. So this redesign is now focused on creating a sense of belonging and community, as well as spotlighting the characters' personalities rather than gender. Again, if you're not able to see, I'm just going to play a little bit of a video. You can watch it or not. it doesn't really matter. You can see in this picture that the candies are now different sizes because we have to honor different sized candies because that is important. Again, the candy has to represent you. The quote redesign is focused on creating a sense of belonging and community, as well as spotlighting the characters' personalities rather than their gender, because candies have gender. But anyway, the most notable changes include the green M&Ms redesign, which, if you remember, and I didn't until I watched this, but apparently the green M&M had high heels or quote-unquote go-go boots, and go-go boots are out. Right out, and apparently now they have to be laid-back sneakers because she has, quote, effortless confidence. You'll see her right here if you're watching. Those are the new sneakers, and now she's effortless confidence. Also, the orange M&M represents anxiety, which if you didn't see there, went by, and the orange M&M was very anxious. We'll get more to that in a moment, but the green M&M is supposed to be, quote, better represented to reflect confidence and empowerment as a strong female and is known for much more than her boots, end quote. So, again, that's very important that the M&Ms are known for their confidence and gender. The green M&M and the brown M&M, as shown in this picture, this is according to Mars, will be showcasing a more friendly relationship, a force supporting women. They will have them together, throwing shine and not shade. I'm just reading from Mars here. This is their information. Sometimes they have been at odds in advertisements, but now they are friends, or, quote, more than friends. So this is the picture of them. Again, if you're not watching, they're holding hands on the beach. I'm just at a loss here. So again, the M&Ms are now representing the LGBTQAIP force because that's important for your candy to have that. Mars also added that the brown M&M's heels will be lowered to a professional heel height because apparently the heel height previously was unprofessional. And as we were talking about earlier, the orange M&M will embrace his true self, worries and all. That's a quote. Quote, but the orange M&M's shoelaces will now be tied to represent his cautious nature. According to Mars, the orange M&M is one of the most relatable characters with Gen Z, which is the most anxious generation. That is a quote. And of course, the red M&M, who has shown bully tendencies, will be more kind to his co-characters. I'll just keep continuing on because this is fascinating, right? Mars will also include imagery of M&Ms of all shapes and sizes, moving away from only one body size. Again, the candies are bodies, not just candies. And it will move the prefixes from the character's name to focus on their personalities rather than their gender. I didn't even realize the characters had names, but apparently, like Miss Brown. Anyway, I didn't even know they had names. So we're still, don't forget, we are still talking about, whether you think they're delicious or not, we're still talking about candies. This company hopes the changes will show the importance of self-expression and power of community. Okay, that was way too long to talk about M&Ms, but this is what we need to know. We need to know that corporations are following the culture. This is where we've talked before about what is downstream, what is upstream, what happens. And we know now that beliefs are the bottom level of thing. And we know in this culture that people believe that you must, it is not negotiable, you must honor the gender preferences, racial identities. We must honor these things first and foremost. There is no other higher value, and it goes into the corporations. And this may seem silly, but is actually a great example of a corporation that has said, okay, we are signing on to this, and we will follow this to its end result, which means that now our candies represent the people, even though they're still just candies. Now, I do need to make a fine point here, and the last quote was, the changes will show self-expression and community. It does stand to note that when you do these types of things, that we're talking about M&Ms, we have to talk about pretzels. And the reason is, this is tying yourself into a pretzel, because self-expression and community actually cannot correlate. Either you are a person who has self-expression and you express yourself individually, or you identify with a community and you become more like the community. Both of those things are a bit mutually exclusive. But M&Ms, because these are buzzwords, has to include both of these words in their marketing and in their presentation of really what could only be called an ideology, that they need to say both of these things. You have to show your self-expression by showing the different sizes and different shapes and now apparently different shoes, and the fact that you're in a community. But the only community you can be in is the community based on this identity. And as we've seen in other episodes, some of these identities even run into each other because you can't live in full harmony once you start going down certain paths in this ideology. Great example is the writer of Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling, who is now in a huge fight with some of the trans community because she is more feminist than trans, and if you believe a woman is a woman, then you can't be in full support of trans, and the feminists believe the woman is a woman, but a trans ideology says a man can be a woman, or anybody can be a woman, or what is a woman? Those are all questions, right? According to the LGBTQ AAIP, which some of those letters don't like each other, as I just mentioned. So self-expression and community sometimes cannot coexist together. I would say most often cannot actually coexist together, because to be part of a community, you have to release some of who you are as self. That's why Jesus says, in fact, die to yourself, deny yourself, because then you can actually serve the community and love others as well. Side point, though biblically probably more important than candies. Let's move on. So we also have to talk about sweet little Minnie Mouse. I mentioned it's the happiest place on earth. Well, I don't know if this makes it more or less happier. I really can't say. This is an article, Move Over Mickey, Minnie Mouse is wearing the pants now. I don't even know. I don't even know where to go with this, but this is a thing, Minnie Mouse, and apparently it is in Disneyland Paris or something like that, but Minnie Mouse now wears pants instead of the polka dotted dress that she has worn for as long as I've been alive and probably longer. Why does this matter? Does it matter? Well, this is a quote from the person who invented the polka dot suit that she apparently now wins. This new take on her signature polka dots makes, quote, Minnie a symbol of progress for a new generation. It includes a navy pantsuit with black polka dot, black bows on the pockets, and matching pumps. Minnie is still sporting her signature bow. Blah, blah, blah. I'll just end the quote there. Why does this matter? I think it matters because, again, we're talking about progressing. And you heard it right there in the quote from the designer of the pantsuit. Why does it matter if Minnie Mouse wears pants or a dress? It matters because we're talking about a character that represents reality. And I know we go back and forth into what is reality and what is not, but Mickey Mouse represented a man for all of his existence. Minnie Mouse represented a woman for all of her existence, but now we have to break those norms down, and that's what we're talking about in the destruction, literally, of reality. Because in order to make the things true that this culture wants to be true, you have to change, literally, reality. You can't live in the real world and believe some of these things are true. Why does this matter to a Christian? It matters because Christianity is based fundamentally on truth. Jesus says, I am the truth, period, full stop. Jesus is the truth, the way, the life. So if we aren't following the truth, if we're creating a new reality, saying that men are not men, or women are not women, or women are men are women, or whatever we're saying, then we're living in a not reality and we're not living on the truth. And once we move into this place and once we live in lies and start saying things that are not true, living things that are not true, we end up in this place where we literally don't know which way is up and down. And the internet is full of people who unfortunately have just lost their minds and now are in this place. And not just the internet, in real life, people are living according to these new ideologies and trying to recreate reality based on what they believe rather than what reality really is. So as silly as M&Ms or Disney are, we see that they are bending over to the culture that says reality is not real, and we must abide by the people that are saying it the loudest that reality needs to be the way I want it rather than reality actually being real. If that makes your head spin, I apologize, but this is the world that this culture is trying to create. And as Christians, as believers in the Bible, as believers in God, we have to constantly come back to what is the true things, what are the right things, because those are the things that we build our foundation on, as Jesus has talked about over and over again. When we build our foundation on the rock that is Jesus Christ, we are solid. When we build our foundation on sand, he gave this analogy, parable, if you will, then our foundation is not solid, and anything, if you've built a sandcastle, if you've done any construction work, if you build it on sand, it's not going to last. And we have to understand that, and we have to live as if this is real. We can't live in lies. We'll talk about Solzhenitsyn, which I've talked about before, but he was, he was actually oppressed by the USSR during the Russian Revolution and gulags and this whole thing. And his biggest point is what people did was just believe the lies that they told. That was the biggest thing that caused them to stay in this suffering and to stay in this place for as long as they did, for so many decades, because they just lived the lies. And everybody may or may not have even known the truth, but if you live in a lie, you begin to actually believe it, and we can't do that. So what we move to now is this trucking situation. And if you haven't heard, there is a massive truck convoy going across Canada right now. Why? Well, the truckers are fighting government vaccine mandates, and they are marching to the capital in Ottawa. And as I pointed out earlier, have you noticed that your store shelves are more empty than normal? And we've talked about infrastructure, inflation, mandates. There are 2 new mandates in the last couple of weeks that come from Canada and the United States. On January 15th, there was a deadline that forced unvaccinated drivers to observe a 2-week quarantine and COVID test before crossing into Canada from the United States. So going up, you can't go in for 2 weeks. Do you think that's going to affect supply and demand? Yes. 2-week delay on getting things into another country and onto the shelves. That's huge. And at the same time, the U.S. also implemented new restrictions that started January 22 that a non-U.S. individual entering the Canadian border must be vaccinated. So are there truckers in Canada who are not vaccinated, who cannot get the goods from Canada into America? Yes. Are there a lot? Yes. So if you think the shelves are a bit empty now, consider how much fewer goods will make it across the border either way, with tens of thousands, 50,000, 80,000 less drivers crossing the border. Is this an issue? Yes, this is an issue. And it's not a small issue. This is actually a huge issue for either side of the border. We live, and I mentioned this the other day, I'm not going to go into all the statistics again, but 70-something% of all of our goods in America, I'll just talk about America, are brought in and brought to the places by trucks. So to say that some tens of thousands of trucks cannot get here anymore, much less Canada, which is going to have the reverse and obverse problem, this is a really big issue. And you have the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, who previously said that unvaccinated people will not be tolerated. This is what he said in a press conference in Quebec. He said it in French, but he said that unvaccinated will not be tolerated. What does that mean? Not be tolerated? I mean, like, are they sent to the moon? Like, are they killed? Like, what is not tolerated anymore? I have no idea. I do know the province of Quebec is going to start fining unvaccinated people if they don't. You've heard that maybe you get a little prize or a raffle or money if you do get the jab, but no, they're saying the opposite. If you don't, we're now going to start fining you money. And who knows what else the government there will decide to do. So the Prime Minister took to video and said this.
The small fringe minority of people who are on their way to Ottawa or who are holding unacceptable views that they're expressing do not represent the views of Canadians who have been there for each other, who know that following the science and stepping up to protect each other is the best way to continue to ensure our freedoms, our rights, our values as a country.
So I mean, there's so much there that he said. First of all, small fringe minority. So as you heard me mention, and we'll see in a moment as I show you some of this. Actually, I think I'll start some of this here as we talk. Let me turn the volume down and make sure it's not too loud. So again, if you're not watching, what I'm going to show you for the next little bit here is the truckers in Canada going across, and I'll restart this in a second, but there are a lot. And so this is a small fringe minority, but as I mentioned, even if you just look at this video, it's not a small fringe minority, and we'll talk about some numbers in a second. But as I mentioned, if you buy anything in the store, this is going to affect you. So is it a minority of people? And that is incredibly just insulting and belittling language. But beyond that, he says, if you don't do this, then you won't have freedom. Now, just refresh my memory. If the government says, if you follow this, then you get to have freedom, is that freedom? Or is it freedom that says you have life, liberty, pursuit of happiness? You know, we've said some of those things in some of the documents in our founding, like, you know, the Declaration, the Constitution, that sort of thing. Are those things real? Do they matter? Were these rights given and they're unalienable, given by a creator, or are they just invented and, you know, we may have them, we may not have them? These are the things that this... Now, I know Canada is different, and their policies are different, and their documents and rights and things are different. But fringe minority, and there are literally thousands of people now headed towards the nation's capital in opposition to the nation's mandate for truck drivers. So this is it is a big deal, and it is going to affect us. And what I want to kind of land on here is that this is really cool. It's really cool to see this many people standing up and saying no. And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take people just saying no. And in terms of numbers, I just wanted to say a couple things. Apparently, and this is according to the Toronto Sun, the longest truck convoy ever recorded was 7.5 kilometers long. I know some Canadians understand that. Americans don't understand that. It doesn't matter. That's a good length. And the Freedom Convoy in British Columbia apparently is much longer. That earlier convoy was something like 480 trucks. This convoy is, some estimates are saying 10,000 trucks. Some estimates are way higher. I was reading about this, and I don't know what kind of expert he is. So it's really unclear. There are videos. I just showed you one. I've looked at some other aerial videos and things like that. But the former National Hockey League player and two-time Olympic gold medalist Theo Fleury said, right now in Canada, we have one of the biggest revolutions happening. There's 50,000 truckers and about 1.4 million people headed to Parliament in Ottawa. That, again, is not a small minority, and that's just what we know about. And again, that's an estimate. We have no idea. It's literally just about to happen. So depending on when you listen to this, they may or may not have arrived there. They've been going now for days across the country, but it is miles and miles and miles long of trucks and people in every city. I've been watching it for several days now. I've been wanting to talk about this for a while because I have some friends and family up in Canada, but people are standing on bridges, and people are watching this. If you saw the video, people are standing by. They have flags. They have trucks decorated with red and white. Canada's colors are red and white. Lights and things like that. I mean, it just is wonderful to see all of this happening and see people stepping up and saying, you don't own my body. I have a conscience to be able to make these choices for myself. Again, you can go personally. Like I'll say to you, you can go ahead and make whatever decision you want. I don't own your body either, so you make whatever decision you want. But the government can't say these things that they're saying or threaten livelihood or say we don't tolerate you anymore. Like, this is where it gets into tyranny town, and I don't want to be in that. The Canadians that are standing up here don't want to be in that. There's even... they have a massive GoFundMe account to take care of people because, again, these truckers are not able to work right now. They're literally not allowed to work. That's part of why this convoy is going. And apparently they've raised almost $6 million through a GoFundMe account. And GoFundMe put a hold on the money. According to a news source, the GoFundMe has blocked access to the millions of dollars raised by Canadian trucker quote, Freedom Convoy, and the fundraising campaign had received over 60,000 donations. And actually, that was a couple days ago, around Tuesday. They said that they require fundraisers to be transparent about the flow of funds and have a clear plan for how those funds will be spent. Okay, these are people who are not working because they can't work because the government has said you have to get a medical procedure to work, and people are saying, I want to help you in this, and you're supporting us, and we're supporting you, and they can't even get to these funds. So I've seen, I didn't pull all of these clips, but I've seen people with grocery bags handing them out to the truckers that are going by and just showing a lot of love and support. I listened to this one, I couldn't pull the clip, but I listened to this one where kids got on the radio. I mean, you guys, I don't know. As a kid, I played with the CB radios, and it's got the boop, and you just trucker voice and all that kind of thing. And these kids got on and said how much they loved the truckers and appreciated them. And it was seriously heartwarming. It was amazing. And we just get back to, again, why does this matter? Because truth matters, because freedom matters. I mean, go back to the 10 Commandments, like, you're not supposed to lie. It's kind of an important thing. And don't let lies pass through you. So if you don't want other people to rule you based on your medical status, don't. If you don't want other people to force you to lie to them about their biology, don't do this. This is where, again, I get to this quote that came out of this Russian anti-communist guy, Solzhenitsyn, and he talked about this: don't live by lies. Everyone just seems to be swayed and is living in these lies that certain things are going to save you, protect you, and you aren't going to be saved by this. Like, science can't save you. Everyone is worried that they're going to die. And everyone is going to die. And that's sad. And yet that's why the gospel of Christ is so important. And that's why we need to share it. And that's why we have to continue saying the right things and talking about these things and saying, like, these people need Jesus. The truckers need Jesus. The government leaders need Jesus. We all need Jesus. And we want to be able to share this. And when you start saying things that aren't true, living lives that aren't true, it's going to be harder and harder to show who Jesus is, to say who Jesus is. And we see that, especially in Canada. I talked to you a long time about C4. If you missed that, go and search up my podcast about Bill C4. Actually, I did a couple episodes about that, because they're saying now you can't talk about conversion. And really it is a mark against the church and not being able to preach or say things that are in the Bible. And this is a really important point, because that's the end point of where this goes. You have to be able to honor your conscience. You have to be able to live in truth and live according to the morality set forth in the Bible, not just your morality, your truth. Those things may sound good, but it's not real. Does the government have some kind of authority over you? Sure. If you break a law, then the government has the authority to enforce that law. But what if the law is not just? What if there's not even a law? What if it's just a mandate and they ask you to alter your medical status with something you're not sure about, and the risk of not doing it is actually really low? And we know now, this is not me talking, this is CDC, this is WHO, this is Fauci himself saying that the vaccines will not stop infection. Everybody's going to get infected. The masks, according to Rochelle Walensky, the masks aren't going to stop infection in the Omicron variant. Like, this is her saying these things now. And everybody else is saying these things now. So everybody's going to get Omicron, and the chances of death are really, really, really low, because it keeps going down exponentially in that too. Will some people die? Yes. Will some people die because people die? Yes. Again, it's tragic, and I can feel for that, but do you stop all of society? Do you stop people from being able to work because you're worried that some people are going to die? Like, everyone is going to die. That's what I keep saying, and it is tragic, but that's why we have to have the hope of Jesus, and that's why we have to not live by lies, but live in the truth of who Jesus is, and that there is more to this life than just living for this life. We have to live for this life, and we have to understand that there's an eternity coming as well. We really are in this place where if everyone in government, and everyone in the media, and everyone in Hollywood, and everyone in academia, and everyone on the tech platforms, especially the fact checkers, are telling you this one thing, should you listen to all of these people? If you question this in any way and you get kicked off the platforms and kicked out of society and kicked out of your job, and you can't make money and you can't deliver your goods, if your friends jumped off of a cliff, would you jump too? I know that's a silly analogy, but it's kind of where we're headed. Are we allowed to ask questions? Are we allowed to say things that go against the narrative of literally every power center in the entire country and other countries, and sometimes, in some cases, the whole world? Like, if we're not, then there is not freedom. So is freedom important? Should we be in a place where we're allowed to be free? I would say yes. I've done many episodes on freedom. You can go back and listen to those at churchpublic.com. But freedom is important, and it's important because it allows us the ability to live our lives, provide for our families, make this world a better place, and, of course, we come back to the fundamentals of sharing the gospel, going out into all nations and making disciples, the great commandment that Jesus gives us. These are the important things that we have to live. And if the government says you can't say true things, you can't say real things, they're not going to stop with biology. They're going to go on and say, well, you can't say what God says about this. You can't proselytize this. You can't preach conversion. You can't preach the gospel. You can't say you have to change your ways, which is what Jesus says. That's not even me. Jesus, Paul, Peter, everybody's saying, don't live for you, live for Christ. And we are going to get to a point, if we keep going down this road, where the government says you can't say these things, you can't do these things. And again, you see this in Canada with Bill C-4 and other legislations. And now you see it. I mean, I didn't even get a chance to get to it, but in Indiana, there's a very similar bill that a lot of pastors and churches in Indiana are worried about, because it's another anti-conversion therapy bill. So this is in America now that says if you preach, counsel, pray with people, and mention, Corinthians, Timothy, etc., in a normative way or a quote-unquote conversion way, then you could also face serious fines or, in Canada, imprisonment. So this is where these roads lead. I don't want these roads to lead this place. I want us to stand up and say, no, we have the right to be free. These governments even were put in place so that we could be free. So that's what I want to see. And I love to see people, it appears the millions, standing up and saying, no, we're not going to do this anymore. And that's what it's going to take. Non-violent, of course, people just sitting there and saying, we believe in freedom, and God gave us freedom, and we want to live in the freedom that God gives us. And the government should not only allow that, but as our founding documents in America say, the government should actually protect that. That's what this country was founded on. I would love to see us return to that. I hope we do. Whether or not we do, we need to know in Christ we are set free for freedom. God bless you all. I do hope that through all of this, you keep the faith.